Hey everybody, Jaberino here. Thanks for joining me today. It's more Direct Strike. I have random into Karox today. I saw your feedback from the first video, which was to play zoomed out, so I will do that. I recorded those first 3 videos all on the same day, so let us just focus on this game now. And again, I'm Karox. We have a Kerrigan teammate, and we have a Nova teammate to get started here. So Nova can get the hero Nova out before the first wave spawns, and you typically want to do that because she's pretty strong in the first couple waves and you can claim the mid very easily. So by not doing that, we're losing out on a little bit of income. Speaking of that, I'm going to throw down 2 Sentinels just to try to claim the middle for myself. And my middle ally did put down Kerrigan, so that she can at least claim the middle. She's also quite a strong hero. I think she can beat Dahaka. I think Kerrigan can beat Dahaka and Alarak. Of like the 4 or 5 heroes that are available, Tychus might be the strongest originally because he's the most expensive, and then Kerrigan. Anyway, let's see if we can kind of determine who we're against. So we're against Orange. Orange has 2 cannons, which means it's either Karox or it's Vorazun. So that's who we know we're up against, at least, which is nice. I think both of those, we want to go a mix of Mirages and Annihilator. So see, I didn't overcommit to that first wave. It's like if they built one thing, then I would have been able to... If they would have built a single thing, then maybe I would have been able to kill it. Or if they built nothing, then we claimed it, but we didn't overcommit, and we still have that middle bonus. So I think it's important that you do that. Interesting, an Archon straight away here. Alright, thanks for reminding me. I typically don't put out my photon cannons in the first wave, and the reason for that is if the first person, like this guy, for example, made 1 unit and crossed the threshold and he saw my cannons, he might have been able to discern, you know, what commander I was, which I think is not smart. So right now, I have to think about who my middle ally might end up having overflow. And I don't think we really know that either. It would be Blue, who has a single missile turret. Okay, so it's Nova. I believe that's the Nova turret. And I am against a Vorazun, which means that I'm going to want to make Annihilators and Mirages. So let's get a couple Mirages out to deal with Oracles. No big deal. We're probably going to have to move that Observer back eventually because of Corsairs. I believe those were Orange, right? They might be... Yeah, they're going to come in here to kill Nova. So unfortunately, I let these slip through for Nova. That's all right. The waves should reset eventually. And then they already have an Observer out. So she could... Nova could manually auto-cast that snipe to kill the Observer if I didn't leave any of the Oracles slip through. So I'm going to go ahead and start getting some Annihilators. I think Annihilators in the long run are pretty good against Vorazun. And I'm going to grab Shadow Cannon. You'll notice that I didn't spend a lot of money very quickly. And that's okay to do. Some people think that, especially in these first waves, you really have to spend your money right before your wave spawns. And you can get upgrades while your wave is already moving out. Just something to keep in mind. So I think, yeah, again, versus Vorazun, I think Mirages together with Annihilator, this should work just fine. I think we're just going to want more Mirages. The Mirages are going to lift up the Stalkers, which we don't want sometimes. I mean, we need to contest the Oracles. But at the same time, if the Stalkers are lifted into the air, then our Annihilators can't kill them. So I think we want to focus more on Annihilators as long as we have enough Mirages to, again, take on the Oracles. Then Annihilator should absolutely roll over Stalkers. Should roll over anything Vorazun has on the ground, really. And we are distracting for our Nova ally so that we can retain the middle. So we kept that middle bonus. That's a lot of Zerglings from Kerrigan. And you want to scan here. And it looks like... Was that just Nova, or were those the Nova ghosts? I don't know. Kerrigan Zerglings are just so easily countered. Zerglings in general in Direct Strike, you only want to build in very specific circumstances. Let's see if he gets a Corsair out. Yeah, so we're going to have to start being concerned about our Observer. And I can't see his Stalkers because my Observer's not far enough up. So again, we're winning our wave, but it's going to be very delicate based on what this Observer can see. And Annihilators, again, with that Shadow Cannon, they're just so terribly strong. Alright, so Nova's taken... Well, he's got level 3. Switch to the Shotgun Nova, could probably take those out. Again, I don't really need to backseat my teammates unless I see it's, you know, a very particular issue that's happening. I may just have to get multiple observers, which I'm not thrilled about, but again, I might just do it. Our Annihilators will absolutely demolish those Corsairs that are flying as well. Why am I being pinged? Don't tell me when to get my gas, please. It's alright. It's a team game. Sometimes you have teammates who are gonna backseat the crap out of you. It was just a suggestion to get our gas. That's fine. I am concerned about this Kerrigan. Of all things, I'm particularly concerned about the Kerrigan. But that's okay. So see, we are absolutely killing the Stalkers. We got to scan. And now I need to probably go heavier on the Mirages in order to counter the larger air force that they have in general. I will get a second... I hate to do it, but I will get a second observer to sit behind the rest of my stuff. So now we have a stacked wave here, which is unfortunate. The cannon should be able to defend against this. Zerglings. I mean, they're able to run through the storm. You know what? I take it back. The Zerglings are actually doing quite good because they bait the Archon storms, which is, again, quite odd. This is all that that Nova really needed were Hellbats to absolutely obliterate this. And he's got the Ghosts to snipe Kerrigan as well, which is quite strong. So Nova knows what she's doing. The enemy Nova knows what she's doing against Kerrigan, for sure. Okay, we just spawned. I'm going to go ahead and grab some basic upgrades, and I will grab my second gas, assuming that we win this wave, which we may or may not. Okay, so we're fine on the ground. We're able to take care of the Nova leftovers, but again, these, I mean, this single Oracle, we were able to do some extra damage here, too. Again, I really dislike having to do this, but we need an Observer at the beginning so that we can engage, and then that one's going to die because it's going to clump up with our Mirages, which are then going to, we're going to lose vision. So we need vision pretty much all throughout. So I will get a couple more Mirages. I don't think I'll be able to get another one out in time. Let's wait and see. You usually get like slightly less than 100 minerals per 10 seconds on 2 gas. So if we can get it, it'll be close. Need some detection here from Nova as well. I think I could have laid down that Mirage, but that is A-okay. So let's just kind of keep an eye out, and we can scan. Where are you guys going? Okay, now we have some Centurions on the ground, which I think we're smart. I'm also having to deal with a lot of the leftovers here. Interesting how the Corsairs go straight for the Observer. I typically don't see them do that. It might be because the Observer is in the front, so I guess let's put it in the back for now. And now I think I have to go pretty much straight Mirages, which is fine. They're very strong, and he's going to be able to contest us on the ground with those Centurions. The Annihilators are strong, and I think I have enough of them right now. So now let's put this one slightly in the back so it's symmetrical. You know your boy's got to do that. And then I think we probably want to spread out the Mirages, give like a full line. Well, I mean, that's not really spread out, but we do want to spread them out slightly. And the thing is with these Ghosts is they're not super cost-effective, but against Kerrigan, they kind of are. I mean, with the Ghosts and such, that's fine, but I don't actually know if I can lift those Ghosts or not. So, like, this is okay, but I'm not, I'm not thrilled. And Corsairs will win, I think, against Mirages in the long run, so we need to just completely outnumber him. So we're just going to need more Mirages and just more detection. So I think, again, 2 Observers is weird, but I think kind of necessary. And our Nova player is making Goliaths versus the Artanis wave. I think it's probably because a lot of my stuff has slipped through. And so, in response, Nova is making Goliaths. I think it's a Hollow Decoy, which is fine as well against Artanis. But it's not looking good, boys. So we have to start considering what are our leftovers, because we have to deal with the Archons as well. We can lift all this stuff, I believe. These are listed as biological psionics, so we can lift them up. Our Annihilators are doing fine. Actually, let's keep an eye on this, because I need to scan if necessary. You can see in this particular situation, we do win the air battle. So it was really a numbers game, and now I need to start challenging the Centurions on the ground. And in order to do that, I could go to Tier 3. I could make more Sentinels. Sentinels in the long run should probably win out. We can also just make more Mirages to lift them all up. And I'm going to get more upgrades as well at this point, specifically for the Mirages, so that we can keep contesting air. I'm concerned about this Nova. I don't understand why, you know, this is the build, but it's, you know, it is what it is. The problem is that Kerrigan Zerglings are going to all get eaten up by this stuff. Lurkers is an interesting choice. I guess if Nova can't see them, they can't be sniped. And again, those ghosts are pretty cost-effective. What I'm going to do is grab +2 air weapons. On the plus side, we can lift up pretty much everything that's going to cause us problems. And we got to watch this observer, because as soon as the observer dies, I need to scan. Okay, so now we're winning the air game. The problem is, again, I'm going to need more observers. So, again, as silly as it is, I'm going to get a second one. And spread them out like that. So I could go tier 3 and get Fire Colossi. I could also just make more Sentinels, which I think is probably the right choice at this point. So let's move these, scoot these back just a little bit. And that should help against leftover ghosts as well, because they're not technically biological, so they can't be sniped. This Kerrigan is sort of winning her wave in the long run. I'm kind of surprised, but you know what? If it works, even though it's a little weird. Our Nova's got some tanks as well, so now we've got some help on our way, which I appreciate. The Annihilator Shadow Cannon's just doing damage to whatever they can. My observers are alive. This is positive. And there we go. Now, because we stacked our wave with our allies, we're winning our wave. And I'm going to go ahead and grab additional Sentinels. Again, we want to keep these Annihilators alive. I mean, the Annihilators exist to use Shadow Cannon. If they die after that, it's really not that important. Which I kind of hate to say, but it's true. Any of these Mirages that survive are eating hits from the Archons, which is huge. And nice work here with the Hellbats. That's a really, really smart move from our Nova player. We're able to lift up everything that we lift up here and do damage with this stuff is just a massive bonus here. And now that we're stacking our wave, we're pushing it back. So, you know, don't get discouraged if you're losing early on. That's okay. It doesn't mean that you're out. Okay, so we're protecting our Annihilator row right there. Any particular upgrades we want to get? I think I'll get ground weapons level 2. Actually, I'm going to start getting air armor. We need to retain air supremacy. And we have to just keep an eye out if our observers finally go down or not. See, like that. It's very odd that the Corsairs just sort of decide to go straight for the observers. All right, we have Phoenix now as well. So I could make even more Mirage. Mass Mirage does kind of work against everything. It's weird, but it will work. We could also make carriers. Void Rays are the response, are the proper response by Vorazun. Okay, and air armor should help because Corsairs do relatively minimal damage, and they do splash damage, so we have to ensure that we can survive that specifically. Okay, so now they have done the opposite and pushed backwards. Our Sentinel should get in there and do some decent work. But now we have to deal with the leftovers here. I find it so odd that they go straight for my observers. I didn't know that Corsairs would do that. And you can see because of the splash damage, they absolutely can roll over me. So we have to consider making Carriers can survive against Corsairs. I mean, we make more Mirages. The ultimate problem is that they're dying to splash damage. So no matter how many we make, it becomes kind of superfluous and a bit wasteful. I suppose the Zerglings run in and they do allow the Lurkers to get in there and deal a bunch of the damage. That's great. The other reason that Mirages are good in this circumstance is if the waves get offset, they're very, very good against everything Nova has at this moment. So like this, we can get in there, we can lift every individual thing, we can lift the tanks, we can kill all this stuff. I think it's about time we go to Tier 3. I think we need to get +3 air weapons, and I think we're going to need to transition into carriers, which I hate. But if we can force Vorazun into making Void Rays, then Annihilators will eventually win out. So it's not about saying, all right, we're going to transition to carriers and only go carriers. No. You need to be able to transition into one thing, anticipate your opponent switching in order to counter it, and then thinking about what advantage you can get from that specific circumstance. Okay, so I'm gonna queue up Tier 3. I honestly don't think any additional units at this point are going to be that useful. I'm actually going to move my observers even just slightly back. And I might even have to make more of them. I don't know. I mean, if we could kill the oracles quickly. And there we go. We take the middle advantage back again. I think this has been a pretty good back and forth. Broodlords out on the field now will be really useful, assuming that the ghost snipes get used up on something else. If the oracles die, then Vorazun has no other detection, keep in mind. Okay, and we're spreading out. He's not killing my observers quickly, so we do have the advantage, and we win the air game again because our allies are here to help us out. If I have any lifts available, we can get in there and lift up some of these zealots. We can kill the enemy Phoenix. Anything additional that we can do to help our allies is obviously huge. We're eating up Dragoon shots to allow those Hellbats to stay alive even longer. And this is actually a pretty wild battle overall. So I do have Purifier Beam, and I might save that and use it against the next Vorazun wave, just to make sure that, well, let's see how it's going. I basically want to use that to retain any middle bonuses that we might want or need. Those ghosts, I mean, they can EMP Kerrigan. They're very good against Kerrigan, and it's one of the few circumstances, while they're cool units, they're not that cost-effective, except in this specific circumstance versus Kerrigan. Okay, so let's Purifier Beam right here. And we'll scan so that it decides where it needs to go. Kills a lot of the Corsairs for us. And that was a decent Purifier Beam, not super necessary. But now all of our Corsairs our Mirages are alive. To kill their Phoenix, lift these additional Zealots. Now, Archons do counter Mirages almost directly, but you need a lot of them. And if we can force them to eat their storms, to use their storms on the Mirages now, that means that our Nova isn't picking them up. So this is actually a pretty good Karax game so far. I'm going to grab air upgrades, ground upgrades, and I think now we start stacking. I think we're going to want to stack more Annihilators, and then probably Purifier Colossi, interestingly enough. It's just, well, it's hard to say. We have to see if we can win against these Corsairs or not. The carriers can heal our stuff too, and unless we see Void Rays on the field, I actually think that carriers will be a better choice, and they're actually slightly cheaper. You did not know. Kerrigan cleaning up a lot of the Vorazun wave, which means that we should be able to clean up what's left with our Mirages, and then lift up what's left. We're just not really well kitted to go up against Artanis here. If we want to go up against Artanis, we need Fire Colossi, not carriers. So it's a tricky balance right now on what we decide to make. Because if we make these Fire Colossi, the Corsairs might kill them, just outright, which would just make this all sort of moot. But I think it never hurts to just get a couple. Because they stack really well if you can allow them to stack really well. They're just excellent. We want to get this Mirage plus 2 weapons, and Advanced Repair Systems just gives you an additional repair beam, which almost never hurts. Kerrigan now getting some really good, some pretty good fallback against Vorazun, doing some damage. So that will allow me to get in there. Again, this amount of Corsairs does frighten me. The other thing, too, are these tanks. So the Purifier Colossi, you might want more Sentinels to get on top of those. But every little bit of damage that we can do with the Purifier Colossi against the incoming Artanis wave, I think, is pretty decent. I might want to consider grabbing another gas, because I don't see this game ending anytime soon. So let's throw that down. It's pretty expensive, and you're basically banking on the fact that the game will last another 10 full minutes. And it might. It might. The Liberator's doing good work here. Obviously, the tanks that are building up from Nova are problematic. And I mean, I think if this Vorazun were to make even more Corsairs and take back air supremacy, we would be in major trouble. Major trouble. Luckily, this Kerrigan's able to continue doing good work against the Artanis leftovers and some of these tanks. The problem is the tanks, again, are stacking severely. Alright, and again, I need to keep an eye out to ensure that my... and there they go. I think it's too late. I mean, too late to scan now. So now air supremacy's been taken back. I'm going to throw down one more Purifier Colossi, and I think we need more Mirages, I guess. It's a tricky matchup. Because Vorazun's done a really good job at mixing her forces and also the holdovers from these tanks. Those tanks are really, really roughing us up. Therefore, I feel like we kind of have to fight in the sky, but they all have very, very good tools to take care of us in that regard as well. So they've pushed us back, and I'm thinking, like, we did kind of get to their doorstep, but they're going to push us back here, and unless we make a decision on what would work best against all of this stuff. So we can handle Artanis pretty decently. The Fire Colossi also doing a good job, as you can see, cleaning this stuff up. It's those leftover tanks that are going to cause us major issues. We did okay, and you can see all the Mirages that are clumped up just get absolutely obliterated. So I suppose now we go ahead and get some support carriers. Kind of a weird setup with how these are going to fit in this. I could also put them slightly in the front. The problem, again, the Mirages are going to get ahead of them anyway. So at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter how these are crammed in here. Put those there, and then the repair drones, I mean, I'll get them, but I don't see them helping too much. Yeah, Vorazun Corsairs typically will just win out in this air battle, and I think this is going to be GG unless we can spawn here and manage to push through this. I do have Purifier Beam. I'm waiting, I feel like, for the right place to use it, which is probably going to be against those Vorazun Corsairs. Okay, so we got carriers now. We're able to kill the tanks to pretty decent effect. We're going to wait for Vorazun to come in, and we're going to Purifier right here. There we go. So again, unfortunately, our Mirages are still going to die. The carriers will get mind controlled. Again, Vorazun's kit deals with pretty much everything I have pretty effectively. So this is a challenge that we're facing for sure. Alright, and then this one's got to move. And then I can get another one. I haven't gotten ground armor. That's really not my major concern right now. Tier 4 is going to be up here pretty soon, but I really just need more units. Let's see. This gas might not have paid for itself. It's hard to say. I mean, would have one extra unit necessarily turned the tide? It's really hard to know. And it's kind of hard to recognize when, you know, what little things could turn the tide. You know, one unit stacking into your allied waves could make a big difference, etc., etc. The issue is the Mirages clump up terribly, which just makes them fodder for the Corsairs that are incoming right now. And I'm going to have to make more carriers. I think at this point it's going to be straight carriers. And I'm going to start making carriers in the front, actually, because, again, if the Mirages can stay alive, they have to see, you can see our carriers get mind controlled by Dark Archons. But that's all right. I think we just keep making them. Again, it's not great against Artanis, but I need to focus on the leaks from the other waves more than anything else right now. So, very, very odd layout here with my units. It's all right. It happens. Put you in there. Put you down there. Okay, there we go. And now we can focus more on pretty much just straight carriers, which, again, is not really ideal, but because their waves are stacking, I think we really just need to pick our strongest composition, which is probably going to be carriers. I could also make more Sentinels, which are getting on top of the tanks, I don't really need more, I think. I think I just need, yeah, the amount of mind controls going off on these carriers is going to be killer. Like I had said, the Vorazun kit is just very, very strong if used properly in late game. If he wouldn't have made Dark Archons, we would have been safe. If he, you know, would have cooled it with the Corsairs, we probably would have been safe. That's tough, you know. This is why it's interesting, though. You know, I'd love to hear people's feedback on what they think would have been the right decision ultimately. So we could get another carrier, or we could go tier 4. We're not going to get a carrier out before the next wave anyway. We could get tier 4 before the wave after them. So I think we've got to do that. And if we can get, basically, just once we get tier 4, we just fill out this row with carriers and just hope that it's enough. I really don't know of anything else we can do. Occasionally we can use Purifier Beam. Not Mirages. Annihilators are good, but there's these tanks in the back which absolutely are going to take care of those. The Mirages are doing great work before Vorazun arrives. But otherwise, get murdered. I'm trying to think if Energizers could be used to any great effect here, because they can take control of enemy units. But, again, they're probably going to get killed by tanks before anything else. My carriers are healing his stuff. It's a nightmare. It's just a genuine nightmare. Even again, and if I made more Mirages, it would be probably wasted. I think it would be wasted, at least. I think they would be wasted just because they're just going to clump up and die to Corsairs. He doesn't need more Corsairs to contend with the fact that I'm going to make more Mirages. And that's going to be GG. Even though my stuff's spawning, there's no way we're going to save the Nexus. So we give it a GG. I think that was a good game. Sometimes you lose. I think that was a good game of Direct Strike. But yeah, thanks everyone for joining me. I don't see why I should be putting more than one in a video unless they're very short. And this was decent. This was almost 30 minutes long. I hope you enjoyed this one. Again, I'm interested to hear your feedback on what I could have done different. You know, maybe just masked Sentinel Annihilator would have forced him to fight on the ground. And that would have been countered by Oracles. I think maybe I shouldn't have focused as much on Mirages, because the Phoenix... I'm sorry, the Corsairs just kill them so quickly. Ultimately, we would have needed to focus on ground. So maybe Mass Annihilators would have worked better. And then if you would have made Void Rays, we just had to have counted on the Annihilators taking care of those, and then carriers in the back, instead of as many Mirages as we did. But also having to deal with the leftovers from the other waves. It's hard to say. Again, it's little composition changes could have made a difference in the mid-game, so we wouldn't have gotten so pigeonholed in the late game. All right, thanks everyone for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye now.